For Hitler, the Bismarck it's about prestige, it's a status symbol. It's saying, I've got the biggest warship in the world.
Just 6 weeks after the launch of the Bismarck, Hitler launches his second superweapon, the Tirpitz.
Taufe ich dich auf den Namen Tirpitz.
When Hitler looks at the Bismarck and the Tirpitz, what he's seeing is an image of his prestige. They're kind of huge, they're powerful, they're dangerous, they're bad. You know, it is a projection of his own power and authority.
Hitler's two new megaships are afloat, soon to be ready for war. The story begins over 4 years before the outbreak of World War II. In 1935, Nazi Germany is on the rise, and Hitler has plans for world domination. He's building up all of his armed forces, but the area where he's weakest is at sea. Hitler's navy is just a fraction of the size of its European rivals.
The limitations on the size of the German Navy goes back to the Treaty of Versailles in 1919, the end of the First World War, when Germany's military machine is massively reduced. And the whole point about that is to make sure that Germany can never do it again. But of course, when Hitler comes to power in 1933, he starts to tear that agreement up. And the Allies are really powerless to do anything about it.
Hitler wants to build a navy to show the world the extreme power of the Third Reich. But turning his vision into reality will be a Herculean task.
Hitler's understanding of the Navy is very limited indeed. He likes to think of himself as this great military leader, but actually his military training goes so far as what he's achieved in the First World War, which is rising to the rank of corporal. Naval matters, no, this is something he's not tuned into at all. The Tirpitz and the Bismarck, which are the two big battleships that Germany's building in the 1930s, are larger, longer than anything the British have, and indeed the French.
Bismarck and Tirpitz are so big, very few shipyards have the infrastructure to build them. One is Blohm & Voss in Hamburg. Military engineering specialist Mike Pavelek is exploring the site, which is still an active shipyard today.
Although it's completely covered over now, this is the exact spot where slipway number 9 was, where Blohm & Voss built the Bismarck. Imagine, if you will, a sloping slipway running from about here to the edge of the water, about 300 meters, where they laid the keel in 1936. This is so exciting. This is where they physically built the Bismarck.
Both ships will be over 800 feet long, nearly 120 feet wide, and 18 stories high. Remnants left from their construction can still be found today.
This piece is amazing. This is part of the belt armor of the Bismarck, the armor plating that went outside the hull to protect it in critical areas. This piece was left over. After the war it was found, and here it sits today. That's an enormous hunk of steel.
The Bismarck's armored plating is designed to withstand an explosive charge of 550 pounds of TNT.
It's incredibly well armored. It's the best armored battleship the world's ever known. And there is certainly a case that the Germans over-engineered their battleships, just as they over-engineer everything.
The designers create super-strength, double-layered hulls.
The double hull construction means that there's an outer layer of metal as well as an inner layer of metal. The outer hull can take damage as long as the inner hull remains intact.
To survive torpedo attacks, shell fire, and aerial bombardment, they each boast 22 watertight compartments to isolate internal flooding.
The watertight compartments are designed so that if the ship takes a hit that penetrates, that section can be sealed off so that the rest of the ship doesn't flood and it still stays afloat and viable as a weapons platform.
Hitler is delighted with the program.